Welcome back to another episode of Jesse's Barbershop. My name is Jesse, and if you're somebody who's new here and you're looking for men's hair tips, tricks, tutorials, all that kind of good stuff, make sure you hit that subscribe button because that's what I do here on this channel. Now, the video you guys have all been waiting for, you've been asking for it, I've been ignoring you, but finally I got the time to do it. So in this video, we're gonna be doing a Harry Styles hairstyle breakdown. What? You guys have been asking for this one for a while, and my other hair breakdown videos are doing very, very well relative to somebody like myself. So as a thank you for that, I'm gonna get right on this video. So if you're new here, this is how this works. We're gonna be breaking down Harry Styles' hairstyle into three major components. The first of which is going to be hair analysis, where we're gonna be going over things like his hair type, his hair texture, his hair condition, to understand the building blocks as to how he's able to achieve the styles that he does. And the second section is going to be styling, where we're going to be going over some of the techniques or strategies he or his hairstylist might be using, as well as some of the product recommendations and all that kind of stuff related to how he styles his hair. The third section is going to be what you need to do and what to tell your barber if you were sitting down in a chair looking to get this hairstyle for yourself. So without further ado, because I'm sick of how long my videos are getting, let's dive right into it and head over to the $2,500 gaming computer to Google some pictures. Let's start off by looking at some pictures. Yeah, looking great, looking great. Obviously in preparation for this video, I familiarized myself with a lot of his photos, but he is a perfect example of something that I would like to address right off the bat. Now, anytime you're styling your hair, the thing that I like to do first is decide what problems you commonly run into. So let's say your hair is too frizzy, or your hair is too dense, or your hair is too fine. Identify what it is that is causing you the problems and then start looking for ways to fix it. So I'm seeing a potential major problem for Mr. Harry Styles, which is his super high hairline. Now, obviously he makes it work, and we'll get into the details as to how he does that in the styling portion. But right now, as we're in the hair analysis section, let's just kind of try to look at everything quite objectively. So first of all, white guy, typically finer, less coarse hair. So that's pretty typical what we're seeing here. Looks like towards his hairline, he has like a little bit of like frizzy thinning going on. Looks to be a medium coarseness, which of course is referring to the diameter of each individual strand. And there's nothing that would indicate him having a low or anything other than a medium density. So medium coarseness, medium density, pretty typical. I would guess that it naturally is quite smooth like this. It doesn't look like there's any major signs of like intense frizzing or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, clearly puts a lot of time and money into his hair, which is why it always looks so good. But as for the hair analysis phase, that's probably it. Medium coarseness, of course, diameter per strand, and medium density. Density, of course, referring to the number of hair follicles per square inch. And as for condition, looks pretty darn healthy. It doesn't look like he's put too much color in his hair over the years, which doesn't surprise me because he's got this nice, beautiful light brown hair anyways. Now, with all that being said, let's take some time to look into the styling aspect of how he, with his hair type, is able to achieve this nice, beautiful, coiffed look. The first thing I'd like to address is actually pretty cool. In some of his pictures, it looks like his hairline is perfectly fine. It looks quite normal, like here, maybe like here. Here it looks perfectly fine, but he does have a very high hairline. That doesn't necessarily mean it's receding, and I wouldn't think he's receding, as I mean, it's kind of always been the same as long as he's been on the scene. So he just naturally has very high points of recession. So what I notice, and this is something that I made a TikTok about once, is something that he does pretty well is in photos like this, where, I mean, you can see how high his hairline is, but because of the way that he styles his hair, especially right in here and here, and all this going on here, that's done intentionally, because when he's pulling his hair away from his recession point, it really exaggerates his higher hairline. Whereas this one, it looks quite squared off. And like I said, that's done intentionally through styling. So all this hair here, which is technically towards the front of his like widow's peak, rather than kind of bringing it straight up or straight back, he's brushing it over to the side and styling it to kind of cover that point of recession that would be like right there. Another good example of that would be this hairstyle here. Maybe even something like this would be a good example of that. And that's something that if you're somebody with a naturally higher hairline or receding hairline, these are the little techniques and strategies you can use to kind of square off your entire look. And I think it's a good lesson to be able to learn from Mr. Harry here, because he is a hair icon. But again, as you can see here, rather than pulling his hair back, he's kind of have it up and forward so it can kind of fall in line with what would be like a more squared off hairline. Now, in regards to actually styling his hair, this is a pretty tough one. Probably the most ambiguous of the hair breakdowns that I've done, because he's had so many different hairstyles and all of them seem to be very natural to what his hair naturally does. Like this, for example, he's really grown it out. It doesn't look like there's too much product in there. I wouldn't be surprised if this was kind of his natural wave to his hair. From a texture standpoint, it does look like he does have some natural movement to his hair. You can kind of see the kink towards the hairline. Obviously the movement has been accentuated in styles like this, but I mean, that's something that you don't normally get if you naturally have like a straighter or super curly hair texture. It looks kind of like right in the middle. There's literally like 30 different hairstyles that he's had. But I think in general, a lot of his look really comes from him leaning into the natural hair that he has, rather than trying to force it to do anything that it doesn't. He just kind of has this natural movement, and he just kind of, he's a musician. So he just kind of throws his hair back and it kind of suits his vibe. Now, in regards to what you can do at home to achieve this, if you have a similar hair type to him, it's probably mostly just going to be a matter of tossing things around and letting it grow up to kind of see if you can replicate his look. Because, and this is kind of the main point, this beautiful flow that he's got going on with all this natural movement, he's been able to achieve this in spite of his very high hairline. And this is hairstyling basics 101. If you're struggling finding a hairstyle that's suitable for you, there is something that will work. You just kind of have to continue to look around and experiment for techniques and tricks that can kind of give you a look that is optimal for your hair type and face shape and all that kind of stuff. So in Harry's case, he's got very, very high points of recession. So in most of his hairstyles, he's kind of figured out a way to remedy that in the way that he styles his hair. And I always say this, rather than trying to replicate a celebrity's hairstyle, use it as inspiration and then practice on your hair to see what amendments you can make that would be more suitable for your face shape. Main points what I'm seeing is a lot of movement, a lot of texture. In many cases, he's got a lot of volume towards the front. And again, this is to kind of help square off that look, because rather than bring it all up and forward and in, he's bringing it out and squaring it off to kind of balance out that hairline. So if a high hairline is something that you're struggling with, keep that in mind as a strategy that's always available. So with all that being said, let's head back over there to part 3, where we're gonna be going over what you would need to tell your barber and what you need to do with your hair to achieve this or a similar hairstyle for yourself. So you're sitting in the chair, ready to get this haircut. What do you tell your barber? Well, of course, that depends on which of the 30 different hairstyles that Hairstyles had that you're going for. So as always, the best thing that you can do anytime you go in to get a haircut is bring in pictures for a stylist. That way they can look at the picture, they can look at your hair and either say, yes, we can do this, or this is why we can't, here's something else that might work instead. Another thing is, if you're going for one of his longer styles, make sure you're going to a stylist. And I'm just gonna say it, sorry barbers. Typically stylists will have more experience with longer hairstyles, and realistically with a haircut like this, anything that's kind of longer than the nape area, it's not going to be just enough to kind of just cut it square. That's not how hair works. In his hairstyle specifically, there's a lot of length, there's a lot of layering going on, so you want to make sure you're going to somebody who has experience with longer hair. So that's just something that you're going to have to make sure that you consider. So yeah, you're sitting in the chair, you're looking to get this haircut. I think the big thing is just going to be make sure that you have the correct hair type for this haircut. Now, if you don't know if you have the right hair type or not, that's something that you're going to have to experiment with. Like I said, he does have a lot of length in all of his hairstyles, so if you're looking to kind of get something like this, it might be nice to just grow out your hair, see what happens, ask your stylist when you do get there, and see what is possible with the hair type that you have. Because like I said, a lot of his look comes from him leaning into the natural direction, the natural shape that his hairstyle provides for him, of course compensating for his higher hairline. And for sure, typically if you are somebody with a higher hairline, a longer hairstyle like this gives you a little bit more control over blending that in, and just overall kind of gives you more of a fuller look, so it doesn't seem like you have less hair than you actually do. But yeah, this is a tricky one, because in all of the hair breakdowns that I've done up until this point, there was a clear and defined way that they do their hair, or a method that they use to style their hair. But what I will say about Mr. Styles is that his style is kind of having no style. I'm sure you guys understand what I mean just by kind of seeing what he's been doing with his hair. It's very, very natural. It's very, very flowy. So I think the best advice, if you're looking to get a hairstyle like Harry's, is rather than trying to replicate exactly what Harry's doing, look to your own hair and see what it likes to do naturally, and then of course grow it out and see what happens. And then from there you can kind of start experimenting, taking inspiration from some of the stuff he does, and then from there I think that's kind of where you're going to be able to get this Harry style rock star look. So I think that's probably all I can say about this look. Thank you you guys so much for your patience. I know you guys had been asking for it for a long time, and I had come out with some other fun videos like my Orbay $100 hairspray video and a couple of tutorial videos in between those. But as always, this one has been a lot of fun to make, and I do plan on continuing to make more of these. So if you have any suggestions as to which hairstyle you want me to break down next, please feel free to leave that in a comment down below. I think I got a good sense of which one I want to go for next. I'm super excited, and I'll give you a little hint. He might not have the best concept of how important the high ground is. So as always, if you guys enjoyed, make sure you drop a like. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. And if you haven't yet and you want to see more of this kind of stuff, make sure you hit that subscribe button so I know to keep going. Don't forget to drop your suggestion in the comments, and we'll hopefully see you in the next video.